There are lots of flavors to sexuality.
Yeah. Salty coins and warmer milk, fish, and don't forget textures either, like scraggly little hairs stuck in your teeth.
Right.
Okay. I'm just going to suggest that when you're coming up with metaphors for sexuality, perhaps you shouldn't pick a sweet treat for children. If you're going to try to put together a tale that teaches something, a sort of modern fable, a piece of didactic art, you've got to be very careful because people can and will take things in different ways, interpret things differently to one another. And normally that's okay, but if you're trying to put across a very particular point, you don't want that happening. Because otherwise, you might try to put across some sort of message against bigotry and for acceptance, and instead end up putting across a lesson about how straight conversion therapy is the way forward. But I'm getting ahead of myself now. We have a cartoon to watch, one that was played on Bill Nye Saves the World.
Why are we here, Vanilla?
Damn is right.
Damn!
Look at that ice cream's dick-sucking lips. But I've got to ask, are they big because she's a woman ice cream and that's meant to be like lipstick? Or are they big and juicy because she's a chocolate ice cream?
Oh, this again? Come on!
I can just imagine the people behind this cartoon in class getting their animator's diploma or whatever other toilet paper alternative they acquired and call an education. I can just see them in my mind's eye being taught how to storyboard and how you've got to have something wacky at the start to be funny and draw people in. This thing already stinks of sterile, formulaic creative thought.
Chillax, Strobs!
Settle, everybody. Settle. Now, I've spoken to some of you about my theories on the nature of being ice cream.
Which have no basis in science?
It's the science of feelings.
Fucking straight white men always talking about how they feel. Why can't they just bottle it up inside and develop anger problems instead? Where do we start with this? If a sentient scoop of ice cream were to contemplate its own existence, it probably wouldn't be very scientific. It probably couldn't be very scientific. It probably would be based on feelings. It probably should be based on feelings. And now, before I become Dr. Seuss, I'm going to break out of this speech pattern. I mean, I kinda get what I think they're going for. It's a progressive show trying to turn the feels before reals thing around on a conservative caricature. But if we're going to talk about human sexuality and not the reproductive process, I think feelings are a totally valid thing to bring to the discussion.
And as vanilla, I feel that I am the most natural of the ice creams, and therefore the rest of you should just go ahead and also be vanilla.
Oh.
It's the one true flavor.
Okay, yeah, that's not the kind of feelings I meant. Just tell them to fuck off. You can do what you'd like. Unless you're into kids or something.
No!
See, it's a funny cartoon. You know it's a funny cartoon because there's a screaming strawberry ice cream and you can hear people laughing. Fucking hate this shit.
Don't make me stop being strawberry delicious.
Oh, Christ. Look, no one can make you stop being strawberry. You're strawberry.
Right, keep that in mind. Here's where this modern fable starts to get a bit screwy. If you're strawberry, if your sexuality flavor is not just the vanilla plain, no one can change you.
Hold me, salted caramel.
I just think if you want to get right with the big ice cream in the sky, change your flavor by wishing to be vanilla.
Okay, so we've got a religious gay conversion therapy element coming in. Do it for God and change your sexuality by wishing. Definitely a thing you see in real life, so what's their response?
What if the big ice cream in the sky is chocolate?
How do you know you're right? A fair enough response. But is chocolate analogous to race or sexuality here? It's a bit confusing and muddles whatever message they're trying to get across here. Or maybe the point's meant to be that sexuality is as immutable as race or skin color. But as we'll see soon enough, that's clearly not what they mean.
Hey, mint chocolate chip.
Sorry I'm late. I was busy being two awesome things at once.
Cool.
And here's another way it gets muddled and confusing. Bill Nye says we're talking about flavors of sexuality. What is mint chocolate chip meant to be? To me, straight, gay, bi, whatever, is a description of a person's preferences. It's not something they are. So if this person's flavor is them being two things at the same time, what does that mean? Does it mean they're straight and gay at the same time but not bisexual? Why? Why have you done this? What real thing does this reflect? Because it's clearly meant to have a message, and it's clearly meant to relate to real life. What is mint chocolate chip analogous to?
Not cool. Pick a lane, Buttstain.
Okay, so they're meant to be bi, and they're used here to show us how intolerant and terrible vanilla is. But being bi isn't being two things, is it? It's liking two different things, which means you are one thing. You can be described with one label, bisexual. Goddamn, identity was a mistake.
Come on, vanilla. Nobody wants just one flavor of ice cream.
Here's where it gets even more confusing. So the flavor is the flavor of your sexuality, but now she's referring to it as if it's the thing you want. And I guess it was meant to be race earlier as well.
Brilliant premise, doggone.
No, actually it isn't, Bill. It's dreadful, and it tries to mash too many different things under the umbrella of flavor. So the metaphor just becomes a terrible, meaningless mental mess. But let's brush that issue aside and look at that clip again.
Come on, vanilla. Nobody wants just one flavor of ice cream.
Oh, you're a non-standard sexuality flavor. No one can change you, that is what you are. Ah, but you think you're vanilla. You think you're only into one kind of person.
I do.
Well, you're wrong.
Haven't you ever wanted to be in a Neapolitan?
See, what you really want is a threesome with... What would a Neapolitan be in this world? With a woman and a black transgender guy?
I can't.
See, he's not saying he doesn't want to. No one's really vanilla. They just think they have to be. They say they can't do anything else.
Come on, it's natural. All natural cocoa.
And strawberry fresh from the field.
It's so creamy and delicious.
Big ice cream in the sky, help me. It's good.
It's a miracle! Through the power of peer pressure, straight conversion therapy works.
Meet you at the bowl. This is on. Oh, yes. Yeah, get it.
Promiscuity, the only way to be. Brought to you by science. I feel microaggressed. My identity's being erased by Bill Nye the Science Guy. Because in case you've forgotten, this is from Bill Nye's show on Netflix. It's meant to be tackling all sorts of topics using the power of science. And the sad thing is, if that wasn't what this is, maybe the cartoon could have been good. Maybe it could have been a gag about all the religious conservative dudes who are anti-gay but then get caught on the prowl for boy pussy. But instead we get some garbled attempt at making a point and putting a message across. A message that ends up being something like, sexuality conversion therapy is real, it's good, it works, but it should only apply to straights and people who don't want to sleep around all the time. Just incredible. Masterful storytelling. This tale will surely take its place alongside The Tortoise and the Hare and be used to educate kids for years to come. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.